Hey guys, welcome to a very special edition of the Detour. We say that every week, Johnny, but this one's a great. It's 6:50 a.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time, so much better time for our European viewers at night and people in America. I'm joined by four-time national road champion Johnny Trevorrow. Johnny, are you an early morning person, mate?
I would normally be just about waking up about now, so yeah, not too bad.
Yeah, mate, every time I've called you about 8 a.m., you've always got a croaky voice, so I don't trust that statement. But we are teaming up with Telstra Connected Cycling for the next 4 weeks, and we're joined by Sandy Woolley. Sandy, you're the race director for the Zwift ride today, mate. Do you want to explain to the viewers and listeners what is actually happening today?
Yeah, thanks, Dan, and thanks, John. And firstly, I just want to say fantastic for you guys to join us. It's really looking forward to the next 4 weeks. But Telstra Connected Cycling actually started 31 weeks ago as a way in which we stayed together while we got locked down. So it started with a bunch of cyclists getting together, then doing an interview. Duncan Armstrong, Telstra employee, Olympic gold medalist from the 1988 Olympics, is our host, and we've had some great guests. In fact, a filmmaker by the name of Dan Jones came on.
Oh, it had to be a highlight, mate.
It was a great episode. We've had some great people come on, though, so that's essentially what we've been about. And we ride in Zwift. We have over 200 riders now in the event, and it's just a way in which we've connected and paid it forward, really. It's a bunch of Telstra folks doing good.
Now, speaking of Duncan, he had quite a serious health scare last week. How is he going?
Yeah, he's going pretty well. I spoke to him yesterday. A little bit croaky voice, but really good spirits. Being the person that he is, very upbeat about how he's going to go with recovery. He's already set himself a goal, 5 laps of the ward each day. So he's well and truly on the way back. And but yeah, big scare for us.
Now, you've got the Zwift ride going on today, mate. Do you feel extra pressure? There's an international audience now. We've sent a link out on our socials for if you want to get involved and get on Zwift. It's not normally my go, but Johnny, you could have actually suited up with Leica and had a crack today yourself, mate.
Well, I almost did, but I don't admit this to Wes Salzberger, but I don't even know how to connect Zwift, so I'll have to do that one now.
You struggled to connect to this show, let alone a bike. So
I'm technically dyslexic, and but we've had no issues since Sandy gave me my little Telstra box, and now we're going really well. So we're connected all the time.
And so, Sandy, explain what the ride is today. Is it 1 hour, and I think you've got prizes up for grabs as well?
Yeah, 45 minutes, Dan. And Cisco WebEx is our sponsor. So we actually have a couple of prizes. I will take a photo at a time, undisclosed to anyone, just to keep the bunch together for being closest to the beacon. And I'm the beacon. My challenge is to keep the group together, encourage people, try not to scold them, but encourage them to stay close and win a great prize from our partner, Cisco WebEx.
Fantastic. Well, we'll check in with you throughout the show and see how you're traveling. Is there any particular time where you feel that you're going to have enough breath to communicate to us?
Oh, look, it's any time really, because I'm just going to be huffing and puffing worse than I am now. We're sitting on the blocks. Everyone's joining in the game. But look, I do want to say, Dan, that really it's part of what Telstra is all about is connecting people so they can thrive, if you like, and bringing purpose to technology is what we do. This is what this whole ride is about, through a shared love of cycling. But we have so many who will be joining us this morning, out walking, running, some even just listen to us under the doona. So it's fantastic to have them all join us again in this new format. I say that Telstra Connected Cycling is to Telstra what the sausage sizzle is to Bunnings. So we've just got a bit of extra special sauce, I reckon. It's been a huge unexpected surprise for what we've created this year.
Well, I'd say it's even better than that because the sausage sizzles have been put on hold, mate. So at least
they're back. They're back now.
Are they back?
Yes, the sausages are the back of Bunnings. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Well, there you go. And if people want to get involved, they can email you guys, Telstra Connected Cycling at team.telstra.com. And you guys run this ride every week, same time.
That's right. Every week. We've also got LinkedIn and Facebook groups. So if you want to learn about what we're doing and what we're up to, get engaged, send us your feedback on what you think of our event and what ideas you might have we could incorporate. We're all ears. So jump on those groups as well.
Good stuff, mate. Well, you're about to pull the gun and the ride's going to get underway in about 5 minutes' time.
That's it.
So we'll check in with you a bit later on. And, we've got a jam-packed show. So we're going to be chatting with Bridie O'Donnell, Stuart O'Grady, and we'll check in with you later on.
Good on you. Thanks, guys.
Good on you, Sandy.
Keep pedaling, Sandy.
Yeah. As we said, we've got a jam-packed show. We've got Stewie's going to chat about, obviously, there's been a bit of an outbreak in South Australia at the moment. So there's a few challenges going on over there. And Melbourne looks like we're on the way out, Johnny. We've had, we should be 19 days in a row with double donuts.
Double donuts. It's a great little saying, isn't it? And I don't mind a donut here and there, and a double donut even better.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's bring in our first or only live guest, Dr. Bridie O'Donnell. Bridie, how are you travelling? Are you an early morning person?
Today I am. I have a dog, though, so she wakes me up and we do a bit of a lap of the park before I start work. So generally I'm awake early.
Bridie, we had a chat with Stewie last night. Obviously, there's a lot of challenges for the TDU. You're also working pretty hard behind the scenes with the government at the moment for various projects. How are things going? We're at the back end now. There seems like there's a bit of hope in Melbourne, but South Australia had a bit of a setback. How's things travelling for you guys?
Pretty good here. I mean, I think what we're all projecting is the Premier will make announcements this weekend. So we're going to make that next step. And that's a really big thing for a lot of people around what gathering sizes will look like. And that has a big impact on events, not just sporting events, but creative events, music, business events, those sorts of things. But you can imagine it has to be done in a really safe way. Queensland did that. New South Wales, they had a few thousand people went to the Gabba for the first AFL game, and now it looks like they're going to have around 50,000 at the State of Origin tonight for the third game, then having no limits. So it's taken them, 4 months or so to build up to a capacity stadium, and that's in a state that's had very few outbreaks and very few cases. So you can imagine Victoria needs to be really cautious. I think South Australian outbreak has given a lot of states a big scare because it makes you realise just how long they went without any cases at all, and how contagious the virus is, how easy it is to spread it if you're not observing, quite rigorous hand washing and mask wearing. So that's why it went to 17 cases so quickly. But the good thing is it looks like people in Adelaide have been great. They're getting tested. They're doing everything they need to do. And we've seen this happen in New Zealand too. They just kind of, let's jump on it quickly, close everything down for a few days. Auckland's had a couple of incidents where they've said, let's just everyone stay down, inside if you can for 3 or 4 days until we understand where everything's going on. So I reckon most governments are working out that outbreaks are going to happen. How do we manage them? But the challenge is the borders, isn't it? That's a really big difficulty for Australia, state borders.
Yeah, and I have a bit of an issue with that. But before we go any further, because Dan, who normally is the host extraordinaire, hasn't really introduced you, Bridie, because
we're going to early in the morning, mate. It's I'm not.
I know. We're a whole new audience. People know we've spoken to Bridie many times, so our normal regular listeners and watchers know all about Bridie. But Bridie, you're not just a doctor and talking about these expert things, but you are were a champion cyclist, still a keen cyclist.
Still a champion, John.
You were.
In my heart.
You were a national champion and world record holder. I still remember when you broke that world record, which was in the early days of your cycling career. But I've been Googling you, and I've been finding out a few things about you just recently. And it says here you are a hippie girl from the Sunshine Coast.
My parents were hippies.
Yes, and you lived off the grid. So it was really
My parents left Brisbane, but they're a teacher and a social worker, and they moved to the Sunshine Coast, but actually the Sunshine Coast hinterland down in the Obi Valley. We grew up with no electricity. My dad built our mud brick house, And he's a teacher, and Mum, drove up the hill to go to work each day, and Dad homeschooled us for a few years while he built our place. And yeah, we had no TV till I was 12 years old. It was an amazing way to grow up. It was terrific. We had a few neighbours though that were growing dope, and sometimes cars would move down the dirt road, and we'd say, "I think it's next door."
You started slightly quite late, but you were pretty successful straight away. You were triathlon and led you into it. But I can remember you when you won the national time trial title, and sort of surprised everyone, and you raced at the top level. So I wanted to fill that in so everyone knows you do know a little bit about cycling. And of course, even the Telstra Connected Cycling mob would have heard you this year on SBS, where you jumped in in the breach with Robbie and Maddie, and that was fantastic. You must have really enjoyed that.
Oh, it was amazing. I have never done the Tour de France any other way, though, so I think it would have been really challenging for Robbie and Matt, because they're used to going town to town in France and following the race the way everyone does when the race is underway in normal circumstances. So to have Matt and I in a studio in Melbourne, Robbie in a studio in Sydney, Tom Alaris in the main part of the studio with guests coming in, guys like Renshaw were there and Rochelle Gilmore. So it was actually an incredible show, but an amazing feat of production by the SBS crew, as much as the race was, I think, for all of us, just incredible, right up to that final time trial on the Saturday night. So yeah, it was an amazing experience to be part of.
Well, what's even more amazing is you didn't have TV till you're 12. My brain still can't wrap my head around that. Like, I was addicted to Sesame Street from, 3 or 4 years old. How did you go to school when all the kids would be talking about what's on TV and you'd be like, I got nothing?
Yeah, you're right. Kids do, don't they? They share, what they watched last night. That said, don't worry, I'm 125 years old. So back in the day, not having a TV wasn't as drastic as it would be right now. But we would go to other people's houses and I would sit and watch ABC, like we'd be watching Monkey or The Goodies or Kenny Everett Show, those kinds of things. And I think, wow, how good. Or Doctor Who was the most terrifying thing I'd ever seen, those Daleks. Just, the CGI's got nothing on Daleks.
Hey,
I was 7 when we got television. That was because no one had television back then, because 1956 was when TV first started. So I was 7. And I remember Dad had a little hardware store, a bike shop sort of thing. So we got TV when it first came out for the 56 Olympics. And I remember he used to leave it running in the window, and when the TV would go off at about 10 o'clock, he'd drive up to turn it off, and there'd still be people sitting outside watching the test pattern.
Hey, just on the TV side of things, do you think after 2020, a lot of these production companies and so forth and networks are going to look at their costs and say, hey, the coverage worked really well. We don't actually need to send as many crew on the ground to things like the tour?
I think that's a really good call. I think people are rethinking the way a lot of stuff will happen with sport, given what happened in 2020. Even having teams all travel, I'm starting to hear rumblings about some of the teams are preparing to have hubs or bubbles in one state as a matter of course. It just means less travel, less flights between games. That certainly was the case for a lot of the AFL teams this season. There were some upsides to that challenging sort of experience for them. But also we've seen the way the commentators either commentated footy or other codes from different places, or they all travelled there. I don't know the differences in budget for what SBS had to spend. And certainly the purchasing of the rights is the most expensive part of covering the SBS. But you're certainly right that not having to pack up and move every single town, every single stage, and driving 4 or 5 hours, the crew and even, of course, all the commentators were less exhausted, although most of us were working on France time while we're here in Australia, and that disrupted your sleep, unless you're Robbie and you can sleep, until 2 p.m. every day. He used to boast about how good his sleeping was.
I think we should play the first part of Stuart O'Grady's interview, because then we can chat about the Tour Down Under afterwards, because obviously they've got a few challenges. So let's play the first snippet of our chat with race director Stuart O'Grady from yesterday. Stuart O'Grady, race director, Santos Tour Down Under. I want to open the batting, mate, and say, how many times have you said to Mike Turd over the last 9 months, what a year to hand over the bloody reins?
Mike told me it was going to be an easy job. Getting through to the keys. But no, It's been a challenge, that's for sure. I mean, but life's been a challenge for everybody. So, the TDU team, everyone in that SATC have been working unbelievably hard. They've been doing a fantastic job. We're constantly changing, updating race routes, plans, starts, finishes. It's been one hell of a workload, but the team have done an absolutely fantastic job. So when we do eventually get the race up and going, it's going to be awesome.
Stewie, I talk to you regularly, with my role in running events over here as well, and you're always very positive, but you've been hit with another curveball, of course, with what's just happened in the last couple of days in South Australia. So it's just a moving juggle all the time, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. And when it's not in your control, it's you kind of just have to roll with whatever the health authorities and SAPOL tell us. So we're pretty much almost going to hopefully go out there and announce something, and now we've had to take a few backward steps. So SA Health are pretty busy at the moment trying to, I guess, control this outbreak, and it's not one or two people. It's a big group of people. So who covered a wide footprint, not only over the northern suburbs, but across quite a few areas of SA. So they got a lot of work to do. At the end of the day, we're ready to go if we get the opportunity. Obviously not for the world tour. That's all done and dusted. But yeah, we're really hoping to get something up and going just to kind of celebrate 2021. But we're on hold.
Have you got to the point now, mate, where it's like things out of your control? You've just sort of got to release the grip a bit because it is changing like so regularly. And if you get in the mental mindset of, no, it has to fit like this, it can just all get swept from underneath you.
Yeah, no, I think everyone's been pretty adaptive and flexible, and we've done everyone has done a really good job of continually changing. I mean, the workload's been, relentless. I think I told Johnny, I think I'm up to TDU version 8.0, and still doing stage recons in November. When we should be looking at which flights the guys are about to land in. It's just been flipped on its head, but you deal with it.
Yeah, you're going worse than me because I'm on Lexington Blackburn Bay Crits 6.0, so I'm a couple behind you.
I reckon the stages are a bit longer as well, though. So it's been a hell of a lot of. It's been a great way to explore my state. It's been the longest I've ever been home since you started going to the Junior Worlds when I was 16. So to be home for a whole year, that's a first. To be home for the July holidays, it's a first. And being able to explore my backyard and find some pretty cool roads, which hopefully we'll be able to put into the TDU.
Is one thing you would have seen this even as a rider. You get to know the true character of people during a time of crisis, or what you said before. How many extra hours people are having to work. Are you really getting to see that with the team in Adelaide?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, it's hard. Everyone's given a task. I kind of come in, not the easy job, but designing stages is, it's not the hardest job in the world. You just want to make. You've got all the roads are built. You just got to go and explore them and get a bit creative. The hard bit's dealing with the contractors, the sponsorship, marketing, the councils. Who, they're all investing a lot of their money into the race, and then for us not to be able to give them clear decisions because we haven't got the clear answers. There's a lot more pieces to the puzzle.
That was the first part of the Stuart O'Grady chat. There's a bit to unpack. I want to ask you, Bridie, is one of the biggest issues currently going on at the moment the fact that to run events like TDU, and if you do want international tourists, I mean, these states have worked so hard to protect these bubbles, and the influx of people coming overseas, just people's mental nervousness about the thought of flights arriving and then trying to quarantine this stuff. Is this one of the biggest challenges, particularly being in Australia, that we need people to travel from overseas for events?
We totally do. And, for people who were following closely the TDU announcements and, of course, Cadell announcements a big part of the reason why those events have had to change or be postponed and, reworked is because the risk of international arrivals coming here and then what they want to do, what they'd like to do in their special quarantine versus what the mandatory quarantine looks like. The average person who flies into Australia is 14 days in a hotel. We've seen anyone who's watching on social media, there's been a lot of international athletes. Jess Fox, she's an Olympian, silver medalist in the women's kayak, 14 days in a hotel. Morgan Mitchell. So even if you're a star-studded athlete, you've got to do 14 days if you're on other states. And from what I understand, the cyclists who were hoping to come over for Tour Down Under, European and American cyclists, were saying, well, in other countries, we really only have to do 7 days quarantine and we can still go riding. What I think has been the most important difference between what Australia is seeking to hold on to and what a lot of European and American countries are probably let go of is this community transmission rate. So we're currently, amazingly, touch wood, at now 18 days in a row in Victoria of double donuts, meaning 0 new cases, 0 deaths. Amazing results. South Australia, we're at that for months. So what we're actually trying to do in Australia is protect the community from potential coronavirus infection coming from overseas. What they're trying to do at the Tour de France, the Giro, the Vuelta, the US Open is protect the athletes from the community where, if you like, it's kind of running rampant. And we need to, in Australia, actually really be mindful and careful about the fact that we want these events, but how do we do that without compromising the safety of all just the regular people and filling up our ICUs with sick people? I don't think there's many people in Australia who are denying the virus exists, but we're still hearing those stories come out of the United States. Sick people in hospital saying, this isn't coronavirus doesn't exist, Trump told me so, So that's dangerous, clearly, and is leading to death. And Australia's doing everything we can to protect our community from that. So that means a lot of athletes are not coming over the way that they would have.
Iffy?
Yeah, so the one thing that the South Australian outbreak has done is reinforced to us all how quickly it can change. I mean, it's fantastic. 18 days, as you said, and people start to think, oh, well, we're beaten this, we're done. But South Australia had a lot more than 18 days and suddenly bang, and it happened so quickly and grew so quickly. But as you say, they've got a handle on it. But it really reinforces to everyone just how alert and on the ball we have to be. It's just a matter of really being conscious of social distancing, wearing the mask when you're in a crowd and things like that. I think those issues will stay around for quite a while.
And
right, Iffy. Yeah, they will. And until there's a vaccine and the majority of people are vaccinated, we're still going to be in this bumpy road for the next few months.
As you said, Bridie, if it's about with the races in Europe, keeping them in that bubble whilst it's running rampant, does that mean that there's a pretty good chance that the season will get underway next year as long as they can sort of carry that Vuelta blueprint to races and that's sort of the bar?
I'd love to be in those meetings where they're talking about planning not just spring races, because, of course, they were all held in September, October this year, and they need to be brought forward again back into the standard March, April. I do wonder how that's going to impact the economic costs of running a team. And we saw the pressure it put on, say, the lower budget teams, so professional women's teams have less money. You end up having to think, can we afford to send all the riders across to these teams with the risk of that race being cancelled? What does it mean for contracts? We saw some teams folding and not paying riders. So it's going to start to trickle down into, who can afford to go where and the risks of cancellation. And even having a bit of transparency on, once a race is called, like let's hold Paris-Roubaix over that Easter weekend or Flanders over the Easter weekend. What are the risks of it being cancelled? What does that mean for the venue, the people, the towns, the broadcast? So that'll be some of the conversations that start to happen. People will want more insurance. And in fact, if we think back to Grand Slams, Wimbledon had pandemic insurance, but none of the other Grand Slams did. And so US Open was standing to lose around $800 million if they cancelled the event. So I reckon that's going to be the challenge too. UCI will want to sanction events and say, we've scheduled it now, it's got to be held pending epidemiological conditions. And I think I wonder too if there's ever going to be any thought, and this will, bow into the egos of some of the Grand Tour organisers. What if we didn't have 3 weeks of the Tour de France? Do we need 3-week Grand Tours? Could they be more exciting, could the stages be more difficult but shorter if they were only 2 weeks? You know, and I'm sure, as Stewie said, he's done 8 versions now of the Tour Down Under. Making things longer is not always better. Making more stages or more kilometres is not always the answer. So I think that there needs to be some openness to moving with the times and providing things that are a bit more realistic. And I wonder if we'll ever get to that point where we don't need 3-week Grand Tours in 1 year.
It was interesting with the Vuelta was only 18 days only, 3 days less, and it wasn't really noticed. It's been a pretty tough season, but I thought still can't believe that they managed to put 3 Grand Tours and most of the classics into that 3-month period and get it all done. That it's still staggering. But they learnt as they went. I mean, they didn't do it very well early on. The Tour de France had lots of challenges, and especially they tried to almost like normal. There were big crowds on a lot of those mountains, no social distancing, and I'm sure that came back to bite them, actually, with all those people going back to their areas, because it was just starting to get rampant. The Giro, they ran a little bit better, but still had lots of challenges, and by the time they got to the Vuelta, they did that very well, and I reckon that could be the blueprint that they sort of try and put into next year, in that they forgot about trying to get crowds, and same as with the Tour of Flanders or Classic, no crowds, just the local people standing on the side of the road, that's all. And I reckon that will be how they have to do it. So it'll be a television special, and the people of, say, Tour of Flanders will run again. People of Belgium will be watching it on television, huge. And that'll be how I think it will probably move forward. So, because trying to get people there is going to be would be the issue.
Well, and I wonder if we did that interview with Matt White on what was happening at the Giro, and he reported some pretty interesting breaches, you know, having teams staying at the same places as tourists. So I think you're right about the model that could work. The challenge is every town that's bid for the race to go through their town wants the benefit of tourism as well. They don't all have the same production value as the France coverage, where we see beautiful aerial shots. So there's a lot of footage that isn't captured of the Giro and the Vuelta the way there is with the Tour de France. So they do rely on regional tourism and an injection of people every single day. That's, I reckon, what they'll rail against. That, and we see that in Australia. Regional tourism is really suffering when people can't travel and move around. So the best way to contain a virus is everyone stays home, but then the economy crashes. So we are still in that process of finding a balance between the healthiest community, but that they can still thrive and we can still go out. And I'm still working from home from this desk that I've been working at since March. I'm totally over it. And I'm sure all the Telstra workers are the same. We're not going to be heading back to the offices anytime soon, and maybe not this year. And that's really great for containing mass movements of people in and out of elevators and in and out of office spaces. But what we're missing is all of this wonderful, informal, collegiate conversations, the debrief after the meeting with the important person when you're in the elevator and you're saying, what happened there? What do we do now? You don't get any of that now. You just hang up and click leave every meeting, and you're just in meetings all day. Now, I know that's not related to cycling, but I know a lot of our audience are in that same experience that I am, which is incredibly busy, working really hard, but sometimes from your spare room or your kids' room or the kitchen, and trying to get some semblance of normal life in the same way that a lot of the athletes, and we saw Simon Clark do this, you know, training at home for weeks on end, preparing for his season, and trying to replicate what you normally have, but it's not the same. So Stewie's right. This has had an extraordinary impact on so many of us in all manner of ways. We're lucky to have jobs. I'm incredibly privileged to have a really good job. But we also have these downsides of losing a lot of our social connectivity and our connection to human beings. And that's really, really hard.
We were chatting to Scotty Sutherland a couple of weeks ago, who's obviously the race director for Tour of Flanders and Cadel Road Race. The other issue is the lead-in time you need for these events. So with the progression of things like the vaccine, and it's obviously still unknown when that's all going to kick into gear, but is it probably in the best interest for the sport to make a call as early as possible to maybe push the season back and do that call early so it gives people time to prepare, and then do like a similar format where it's a lot more congested towards the back end of next year, but at least it gives that extra time, because the scrambling part, I think, is what's making it more difficult when you've got an event that's 1 or 2 months away, but there's all these sort of moving parts, and it's obviously exploding in Europe. Would it be in the best interest to make a call earlier rather than later to push the season back, do you think?
I think that's a really good question, but I think whenever anyone asks if it's in the best interest, I always think for whom. So yes, as a race director, you'd love to be told, okay, your dates are December 2021. Let's plan the best Tour Down Under ever. But of course, fate can get in the way, and God laughs at your plans and all those things. But the other problem is all of the logistics that are required. So what does that mean, let's say, for South Australian Police, or what would it mean for VicPol if every single bike race was all being congested? They'd say, we don't have the resources to ensure road closures, or there'd be local government saying, well, we don't have opportunities. It's actually better to space things out. And if we think about European races, there'd be people with cross purposes, or those who are seeking to have a promotion of their local council, or an announcement made, or be the first, or stand firm and hold 3 weeks in July. So let's not pretend that egos and powerful people who make decisions about, say, broadcasts or investments or teams or announcements or sponsors, those people are integral to sport. And they have agendas as well. So it's not just sitting with one person. And let's use the Australian Open as a great example. I'm working closely on how do we bring that event safely to Victoria, to Melbourne, and we still haven't landed it yet. This is a really complex event where hundreds of people want to come to Melbourne and play tennis and move around, and they want to be here, do those things during 14 days of quarantine. That's still very complicated, and our Premier has confirmed it's not a done deal yet. And yet, if we said, let's just make the tennis season really short and have it all over 4 months, that's really complicated. Then you're navigating multiple nations' agendas, multiple national borders, or global borders, I should say. So yes, there's some good interests in some, but I also wonder, and this could be what we've seen with some of the sport in Victoria, is what about if we had a nationals that only had Australians or Victorians in it? What about this Tour Down Under that could only have Australians in it that are permitted to go? If it's only people who can get there, as we say in bike racing, you can only beat who shows up. And that's not a bad thing, to have a different version of the race. It doesn't need to be all or nothing and like you get all the stars or you throw it in the bin. I think all of us have had to work on what could be a compromise. What are our deal breakers we absolutely need to have? And then what would be our nice to have? And I think that clearly guys like Stuart and other race directors, Kimberly Conti as well, they're innovative and they can problem solve. They're not throwing things in the bin. But we need to think of athletes as well. I mean, we all hope that the Tokyo 2021 Olympics are going to proceed in August. But you're right, Dan. What happens if we're getting to a point where there isn't a vaccine yet? Will millions of people fly into Japan? Will they want international arrivals, people from the United States, with these case numbers the way they are, flying in and out of countries? So there's still so much up in the air at the moment. And I think in Victoria, the Grand Prix probably marked the beginning of the pandemic here, with the cancellation of the Formula One on the day, people standing outside the queue and then a decision being made. So no one wants to get to that point where we're calling off an event on the day.
I still remember when they cancelled that Formula One, there was blokes in the crowd going, "Oh, they've cancelled it for a bloody flu. This is a joke." And then, as you said, it really kicked off. So, Iffy, I was just looking at the clock. We're pretty much halfway through. I think you should maybe do your sponsors plugs, the real highlight of the show. And knock those over, and then we can play another quick grab from Shuey and talk about some.
We also should see how Sandy's going. We've been talking.
Actually, we should. That's a good point. How you going, Sandy?
Oh, I tell you what, Matt Keenan, I've seen him commentate while he's Zwifting. He does a much better job than this. It is a tough gig, but we're going well. The group's holding together, keeping people back behind the fence. So we've got a bit of chat going in the game as well. But, mate, that's it. I'm huffed and puffed.
Yeah, I saw you in the background at one point go for the towel. Have you thought about getting just like actually, I've got one here, like the headband.
Yeah, you know what I look like? Olivia Newton-John with no hair.
No, you don't.
Are the guys sticking together? Are they hanging around the beacon?
Yeah, they're doing a pretty good job. We've got one more prize to go. We've given one away. I think it's to Nina Williams in South Australia. So well done, Nina. And got one more prize to go for Cisco WebEx closest to the pin.
Okay, mate. So your ride will finish at 7:45.
20 minutes.
In how
20
long?
minutes to go.
Okay.
20 minutes.
All right. Well, we'll check in soon for the final sprint, mate.
Good on you. Thanks.
Good on you, Sandy. Yeah, actually, it's good to check in with Sandy because, as I said, he was dripping in sweat before. So that's just a welfare check more than anything. Now, Johnny, Mitchelton Wines, mate, open up the shoulders.
Well, I've got my script back.
Sweet.
Yes, well, one of Australia's, just a little cough, that's part of it, favourite wineries and a place of escape. Experience the history, the beauty and the serenity of the Goulburn Valley at your own pace. Looking over the vineyards and the iconic tower, stay at the new hotel, relaxing by that amazing pool, recharging in the day spa, where you can quiet the mind and unwind the body and rediscover your balance in a setting of peace and harmony. Experience the seasonal menu at the Muse, where local produce offers worlds of flavour. Sample the seasonal menu with all wines perfectly paired. Stop by the Providore and tour the cellars, and of course, taste their highly awarded signature wines, always to be enjoyed. Taste the craft and the care in every bottle at their cellar door. Mitchelton has become a really popular venue for weddings and the special occasions, and there's a happy couple. Of course, you have to go downstairs and visit the new Aboriginal Art Gallery. It is amazing, and it's a must. It's world-class with a huge range of amazing pieces from a variety of the nation's best artists. And there it is, the $10,000 Land Cruiser with the $1.8 million. No, we've got up to $2 million.
It's dropped.
$1 million paint job. Yes, exactly.
Okay. Good stuff, John. All right, here's a quick word from our great mates at Bike Exchange.
Look at this bike. You think it's just a bike, right? But it's not. It's a bike 374 people are looking at. This guy, this girl, them, all looking at it. People from here, there, and wherever this is. People that are looking for a bike. Or just a piece of it. Amateurs, semi-amateurs, and pro-amateurs. This guy wants this bike, but with this crank and these bars. This could be the perfect match. But not this one. This girl has a bike to sell, and thousands of people might purchase it. Eyes on Bikes help grow small businesses. His, hers, yours, and the latest data and insights help those businesses keep moving. We are the world's #1 bike marketplace, with over 500,000 products and 900 brands, where buyers and sellers are brought together in a place where a bike is never just a bike. Bike Exchange, where the world buys, sells, learns, and rides.
Now, Johnny, you've got a new script for the next 4 weeks from WebEx. Bit of pressure, mate. Don't stuff this one up.
Well, it's interesting, isn't it? Telstra Connected Cycling is powered by Cisco WebEx, video conferencing and online meeting software, where you can meet face-to-face with anyone in the world on any device, secure in the knowledge your data and privacy is protected. Cisco WebEx is available via Telstra. There you go.
Good stuff, mate. Now, if you want to leave any comments or chat whilst the show's live, continue to do so. Diane, morning light becomes you both. I'm not sure about that. Hello from Cardiff, Wales. Love this podcast show. Thanks, Ewan. Jenny Whitehead, good morning, guys. Early start today. We've got Mariano tuning in from Mexico. And Ben Jensen, who knew it was possible to get up this early? I hear you, Benny boy. But it's been fantastic so far. Let's have another look at our chat with Stuart O'Grady, where we talk a little bit more about the season and a few of the highs.
It's been an amazing year, and we've been talking about it on air, off air, about how we managed to get 3 months, 3 Grand Tours and most of the classics done. And like you, they've had to learn on their feet. There's no doubt the Tour de France were very lucky in that they didn't have it very well organised. The bubble and all that didn't work as well. You could saw the crowds on the roads that weren't that good. The Giro did a little bit better, but they still had lots of problems. By the time they got to the Vuelta, they did it really, really well, which seems to be the blueprint they're going to try and use for next year. What are your thoughts on that, mate?
Oh, yeah, look, it's been phenomenal. But I've got to say, I haven't missed being a professional cyclist or even involved in a team. I mean, the guys aren't flying around Europe as they normally do, doing a hell of a lot more traveling. Obviously, just not having that, I guess, personal, being able to just go down the street and have a coffee on a rest day, being able to pull in and, have an ice cream or whatever you used to do. And, it's been really, really controlled and regulated. Must be really hard for the guys and all the teams. I feel for them. It's not, doesn't look like a fun environment to be in. Cycling is supposed to be summer. Everyone's out waving their flags, having a drink. It's just an exciting time to be in Europe. From everything I've seen, it doesn't look like an exciting time to be in Europe. So for that reason, I haven't actually missed the racing. I've been pretty content to watch it on the couch. And it's also, been a really good education to be able to watch all the Grand Tours, from start to finish, and just kind of taking a lot more than what you see when you're on the road traveling. But yeah, I mean, the guys have put on a phenomenal show. Seeing the guys race in Spain in November, freezing cold, rain, it just doesn't look fun. But geez, they did some great racing, and hats off to them all.
And Stewie, that's the thing. The racing has blown me away. Just the intensity of the racing. But as you said, I saw you through a little interview the other day. You wouldn't have liked to have been in there because there was not much rolling along. And I can only think of two stages in the whole three Grand Tours where they actually rolled along a little bit. Every other stage in every Grand Tour has just been fire the gun and go for it.
Yeah, it's flat out. And, that's the same as the classics as well. They just, I know it was always fast and furious, but there just seems to be that lack of cohesion. And I'm guessing most of the teams have got some kind of plan. Obviously they do. But it's like when that flag gets dropped, all the plans go out the window. And, there's a group up the road and then another group will attack and a couple of guys will attack here. And, it's really been random to watch. It's been fantastic from a spectator's point of view. I mean, the racing's been next level. Liège, Bastogne-Liège, some of the semi-classics, Gent-Wevelgem was crazy. Every single race was just off the charts. And, the backup of I thought it was going to be a few dull years with Cancellara and Boonen and, I guess the big classics guys, Sagan, not being quite at his peak, which we expect from him. And then you get, Van Aert and Van der Poel and Alaphilippe. I mean, mate, we got some cracking years ahead of us. It's awesome.
Begs the question, Bridie, what's been the highlight for you from a racing perspective in 2020?
A lot of highlights, but I have to say Anna van der Breggen winning both the time trial and the road race at World Championships. That iconic image of her on the road bike rolling along the top, not rolling, speeding along the top of that summit at Imola, the one that the helicopter captured. And then they captured it for every race after that because it was in such an incredible piece of cinema. Because I think also the Dutch team as a national team have been so effective. They propelled Vos to the Olympic gold medal at London Olympics because of the way that they race. They race all for one, and they've got the firepower, the legs to really be able to pull that off. They kind of show you the way a national team should race at a World Championships or Olympics, which is send 6 or 7 women to the event that probably could win. And use them all whatever way you can so that you have this sort of decimating attack at the end. So that, for me, was a really great masterclass in one country demonstrating the performance. We saw a lot of lows with the Dutch team, of course, and having Van Vleuten crashing and Spraddy crashing as well at the Giro. That was a real low point or a sad thing for a lot of Aussie cyclists because Sprat had just done so much preparation, firstly, when the Tokyo Olympics were going to be on, but then to really perform well at the Giro. So she's certainly making her way back, which is great, but she had some persistent injuries, head injuries from that crash in the women's Giro. So it just shows you the highs and lows that for so many riders, but particularly for Aussies that make their way over and spend their whole year living in Europe. It's been a really incredible roller coaster of a year.
How big a loss is Van Vleuten for the Mitchelton Scott team, or does it just present some, big opportunities for the rest of the squad?
I think the latter. I think it gives some riders an opportunity to step up. Look at Grace Brown and what a great end of season she had, second to Lizzie Dunn and then winning a race, a classic. That's a fantastic result for Brown. But also it gives Kennedy an opportunity to step up and some new signings. And they've also signed the first ever Afro-Caribbean rider in the women's pro peloton. So that's great for the team and for Mitchelton Scott. But it's actually really good for cycling that Movistar says, we see your value and your worth, and I'm sure they've helped not just financially, but they want her to become a leader in that team. Movistar's been a team that's clearly performed well in the men's pro peloton and have won the team's classification at the Tour de France for many years, but they're trying to build and have some leadership in that women's team. So it's good for Movistar, and it actually shows that women's cycling is increasing in how it values the riders. That said, we did see that the Cycling Alliance and Cycling Tips published a really interesting article about looking at conditions for the women riders, and they're still finding a very big disparity. There's a few riders that are getting paid well for their job, not the same ballpark as the men's salaries, but there are still a lot of riders not getting paid at all. And the conditions and other circumstances about security, job security, having a team honour your contract and keep you for the end of the season. Look at Ekip Palkar, they folded before the end of the season and just leaves the riders in the lurch. So there's still a lot of job insecurity if you're a woman. That said, there's for a lot of the men too, we saw a lot of guys racing the end of the season. Look at McCarthy. He had 2 really crappy crashes at the end of the year and got back on his bike because he was out of contract and Bora Hansgrohe hadn't re-signed him. And a lot of riders desperately looking to see what would happen. And I think for Alex Dowsett as well, who won a stage for Israel Startup Nation, and then finally, just a couple of days ago, announced he's got a contract for 2021. So if anyone has aspirations to be a pro cyclist, it's not all just being Cadel and winning the Tour de France. There is job insecurity, risk of life and your body, and a lot of uncertainty and pain and suffering in between. So all kudos to the women and men that are racing across the world, because this is a really hard job and they're doing their best. They continue to impress me.
Now, talking about contracts, we had a chat with Adam Hansen last week, and some of the stuff he revealed in that was mind-blowing. The thing that blew me away, Iffy, was the story of Bob Stapleton and, taking printers to races, and if you didn't sign the contract before the Tour de France, you wouldn't ride. And then just saying to him, 3 days out, okay, here's your contract. Well, it's half of what was agreed to. But knowing that his manager wasn't there. I mean, did you see a bit of that stuff back in your day, Bridie? Like little sort of dodgy tactics to throw?
Yeah, all the time. I mean, I used to have my first pro contract in 2010. I was racing with a new team that had every national champion from Europe and the world champion in it. And it was a great example of a team of champions that wasn't a champion team. And it was super dodgy, and it was run by a completely corrupt local businessman. And he was in cahoots with another guy who was trying to promote a bike sponsor. It was a mess. It was like every story you ever hear. But he also said, we're not gonna pay you the way we said we would. So I got over there and they said, we're just going to give you your salary each month, but you've got to come over and pick it up at like 9 p.m. from my apartment on your own. Mm-hmm. And then if you didn't do it that way and you brought a teammate, or you said, during the middle of the week, hi, you're a month over of paying me my salary, I need to actually afford to buy food and coffee and, pay for things.
Really?
And they'd say, well, we've only got, 500 euro. Can we just give you the 500 euro, even though it's meant to be 1,500? And, so it was a constant battle. And you're stressed all the time. You're worried about affording things. You're kind of racing to get selected for the next race in the team. And my performance in the Giro, the Women's Giro d'Italia, was used for them to decide they weren't going to take me to the Vargata team's time trial, which was a dead flat race, and a race that the Australian team were using a selection for Worlds. So I didn't get selected for Worlds based on a race that would have really suited my physical ability, because I'd raced like crap at the Giro over 10 days in the mountains, which was not something I was good at. So that lack of power or autonomy or decision making as a rider, and the stuff with Hansen that he shared doesn't surprise me. He told me that sometimes he'd be there preparing for a really mountainous stage of the Tour de France, and the mechanic would say, "Here's your gears," and he said, "No, I want a 27," and they go, "You don't need a 27." In my day. And Hansen thinking, I'm the rider. I'm the guy pushing the pedals. I should get to choose if I want a bigger gear because So it just doesn't need to be that hard. But there are a lot of people who are probably not getting paid well enough either to be mechanics or to be team directors. And so they're exerting their power and influence over a group of riders that are just kind of like, well, what am I going to do if I don't have the contract? If I don't sign it, I'm on a bus or a train or at a train station.
That's a terrible story. Bridie, excuse me.
That's a terrible cough, John.
But the women's racing has really gone ahead especially in the last 2 years. The season's getting more structure. There are more teams. They're still a bit dodgy on the payment side of things, but you can really see a light at the end of the tunnel now. It's just a shame that the whole cycling world is struggling financially. So to set those sort of structures and limits, the UCI realises the issues. They're trying to address it. But the sport itself hasn't got enough money, so everyone's suffering. But there's got to have to be a minimum wage lift for the women's cycling. And you touched on before something I thought was quite amazing. The UCI to deliver that World Championships in that short time was amazing. They were supposed to be in Switzerland, and they had like 2.5 weeks to move it to Italy. And so the organisers in the UCI did an amazing job because it was a brilliant World Championships.
Yeah, it was. Look, if I could be critical about anything, it's that the men's road race does not need to be that long. All it ends up being is the first 6 or 8 laps of those climbs is just people getting piped who felt like they had to show up or were in a bad position. We don't need 280 or whatever kilometres it was, because the penultimate laps are what's interesting about it. But you're right, the course was incredible. The winners were amazing. It was a spectacular finale. And, of course, with the men's winner as well, anticipated and dramatic and sobbing. And, look, he's really passionate about his performances, which is wonderful. It's wonderful for France, but also Wout van Aert. Stewie's right. Look at the calibre of riders that came through the men's season and how well they performed, and Van Aert's just a superstar. I do also want to just go back to, an Adelaide connection, and that's Kimberly Conti. I think we can really thank her for the course that she pushed for the Women's Tour Down Under this year, back in January. She gave this great interview at the race hotel and talked about how she felt that for too long women's racing has been, not enough thought has been put into the stages and making them difficult and challenging. And if you make them difficult and challenging, the racing becomes exciting. The women are fit enough, they're aggressive enough and ambitious enough. So let's make it interesting and use some of the courses that they were using for the men's race. And people go, oh, wow, how good was that? Or how attacking? And it came down to the final street criterium with multiple teams fighting it out for very narrow margins of seconds and a really, really exciting race with a fantastic winner. So directors like Conti, we need more of them, and we need more people thinking carefully about let's see if the races and the courses are interesting enough, because then you get to see the performances of those incredible riders.
It was a big season for the Aussies as well. Let's go back to our interview with Stewie.
Before you do, mate, I just reckon we should just check on Sandy, because they're just about to, they're not long off finishing, and they might just see how he's going with the next sprint.
Sandy, how are you, mate?
I'm there. Minute and 3/4 to go. I think that's enough for me. Group's done really well. Stayed together beautifully. Now, one thing I got to ask Dan and Bridie. Firstly, Bridie, thanks for joining us this morning. It's great you could join us. Loved hearing about the women. Why is John called Iffy? What's going on there?
We've answered this a few times on the show now. You've got to watch every episode, Sandy.
It's like John, Game of Thrones, Sandy. You've got to watch.
Yeah. John, do you want to answer that one? Give us the quick version.
Well, no one ever beat me because they were better than me. It was only if I did something, if I hadn't have punctured, or if I hadn't had too many beers last night, whatever. So,
well,
there you go.
We're getting more comments. Sam Bewley says, "Is Iffy hungover?"
No, too early in the morning. That's the one thing that did challenge for me as well, Bridie, the Tour de France this year. It's the first one I've missed in 20-something years. But, at least when I did my morning breakfast radio, I was actually sober this time because normally I'd be in Europe and it'd be 11 o'clock at night when I did the breakfast and I was half whacked. But anyway, big changes.
We've got a question for you, Sandy, from Vazzy J. Hi, Dan Iffy. Can you please ask your Telstra man, you're just known as the Telstra man now, what is the best way to get involved with Zwift and the Telstra ride?
Yeah, great question. You have to have the Zwift companion app. You will find it listed in an event, and we are 7 o'clock Australian Eastern Daylight Savings Time each Wednesday. So that's how you join us there. To join us on our Facebook and LinkedIn groups as well, Telstra Connected Cycling, and of course Telstra Connected Cycling at team.telstra.com, and we'll keep you updated.
Yep, sounds good. So how long you got left of the ride, mate?
Just finished, thank God.
Okay.
I'm done.
All right. How many riders did you have on this morning?
Well, it's saying to me 357. I don't think we had that many. We had a big number.
Oh,
really
that's
good.
Great. Well,
yeah,
it's
awesome.
obviously they call that the detour effect, mate.
That's it. Watch your numbers jump too.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. All good.
Anything you want to add before we let you shower up?
No, mate. I just want to say thank you guys for stepping in. I know Duncan appreciates it. The Telstra Connected Cycling Pro team appreciates it. And we really like this tandem series we've got coming up till Christmas, really. It'll be awesome. So thanks again, Bridie, for joining us. Fantastic.
Good stuff, mate. We'll see you again on the show next week, fit and ready to rock and roll.
Absolutely. Cheers, everyone.
See you, Sandy. So now I was going to play the interview with Shuey where he quickly touches on the success of Aussies in 2020.
Yeah.
And you must be pretty impressed with Jai Hindley and O'Connor and all this young crop that's coming through as well.
Yeah, well, I mean, I haven't had a lot to do with a lot of those younger guys, and I'm sure, like many Australians, cycling fans, we're kind of going, geez, who's this? Who are these kids coming through? And Jai's obviously done some great stuff at the Sun Tour, but they it hasn't been on the big world scene, I guess, the world stage. And to see a young kid, in the pink jersey on the final day, it's fantastic. Ben O'Connor winning stages. I mean, the Aussies are just up the front in all the races, whether or not they're doing tempo or going for the stage wins. It's been hey, the cream's risen to the top. There's a lot of opportunities out there for riders. A few of the tours, probably not all of the top riders were there with the intense condensed season, but as I said, it's opened up the door for other kids to have a crack and have a go at races where they may not have had an opportunity if it was a normal calendar year. So the guys have, they came out all guns blazing, and as I said, there's opportunities in these races as well.
And at the other end of the scale, of course, there was Richie finally getting on the podium of the Tour de France. That was pretty special, eh?
Yeah. I mean, was a part of Richie's career from day one, helping him to get his contract with Bjarne back in the day, and to see his progression. I was probably a bit worried there after the last few years. Obviously the stage 9 and all this, the crashing and kind of losing, I guess, that bit of nerve in the wet downhills. But to see Richie come out and kind of battle all those demons, and trust me, he would have been working so hard behind the scenes. The staff, the people around him would have been constantly in his ear supporting him. Teammates looking after. There's so many things that go on behind the scenes which lead to that Richie getting that result. But I mean, mate, how good was that? Only our second ever podium, in the Tour de France. Fantastic for Richie. I'm just really happy for him that he got that podium, because that's massive.
Yeah, huge year, obviously, for Aussie cycling. You must be pretty excited, Bridie, what the future holds for this young crop.
Yeah, and I also think that there's a lot of riders that didn't get a chance. Let's look at Sarah Gigante, who's a superstar and won national championships last year. She'd signed with Tibco, was going to go to the US this year, and of course those plans got a bit derailed, and she posted some great footage of herself racing around her 5-kilometre radius of Melbourne, but also I think has just broken some Strava records, up the 1 in 20. Some local climbs here in Melbourne. So there's some great young talent that will have been training here at home and probably not having some of the downsides of travelling to Europe, but also not having the racing experience. So I think elevating some of our riders that are a bit more experienced, like Brown and Kennedy and Roy. We've seen also the retirement of Gracie Elvin, who's been a national champion twice at Buninyong and a really strong performer at Spring Classics, a reliable domestique for leaders in Mitchelton Scott team. So she's done a lot for women's cycling, and certainly I think we'll be getting back to Canberra. She's got a partner, husband, former rider as well. So it's a really interesting changing of the guard probably kind of season, and I'm really interested to see how riders will go through summer. And Iffy, I'm wishing you luck for planning a lot of these events.
I'll tell you what, we're talking about things that happened disappointing. The Giro, when the whole Mitchell and Scott team had to withdraw because of the challenges of the COVID. And I really felt for young Lucas Hamilton, because he could very well have been the other Aussie on the podium, and he was looking really, really good. So I think he's going to be a superstar. You mentioned on Sarah. I'm a big fan of Sarah's. She's been a part of my Lexington Blackburn team for the last couple of years in the Bay Crits and stuff. But I just would, when she won that Australia Road title, it just was amazing. It blew me away. She was like 18, I think. And I just thought, there is so much talent there. She is the one Aussie rider that I think has that huge talent to be a world number one. And we've got lots of really good ones there, but if she gets everything right there, I believe she could be, like a Van Vleuten. She's got the power there to make that all happen.
Actually, Sarah Roy was part of the 2006 Talent ID program that I was part of that helped me get identified before winning national champs in the time trial. She was a duathlete. So I don't know if she was 18 when she won the national title, because she was 20 back then, but we'll do the maths later. But she, super runner, great engine, very powerful. And as you know, that national time trial criterium championship in Sturt Street in Ballarat has this long drag uphill finish that comes from a U-turn. You know, it's a hot dog circuit, but it's not like any other, it's got downhill on one side and uphill on the other. It's a really hard course to time, and then wind has a real factor as well, and then there's been hard conditions where it's been pouring with rain, I think, this year. So she did really well to win that. We've also seen her ride very strongly in support of the team, like she did at Norway in Bergen, where Katrin Garfoot ended up with a silver medal in that road race. So there's a lot of riders like that. I mean, look at Hindley and his performance this year as well. There's a lot of riders whose names we know because we've seen them at nationals or national road series. And here they are now performing on the world stage. And I think we do have to thank guys like Port, because people get this a bit of a patriotic lift and they just think, you know what, we can be big enough to stick it to a lot of these riders. We don't have to be in the biggest team. That said, Sunweb is a highly well-oiled machine and a highly drilled sort of team, and they perform very well all season. So for a rider like Jai, that worked very well for him. I just think it also opens up opportunities for riders to try and find the team that works for them, and having even Michael Matthews come back into Mitchelton Scott. It's about finding the recipe of perhaps the team director or the type of program, or in Alan Piper's case, you know, we need to sort of start celebrating a lot of our team officials that are working, and look at what an incredible result that was for Pogacar. And in fact, now that I think about it, my highlight of the season, Dan, was your interview with Alan Piper. Like, hearing Alan Piper talk about how cycling changed his life, saved his life. That was really beautiful. And I think that there are a lot of people like Alan whose lives have been saved by having a pathway open to them, or saved from illness, saved from near death. He's a great man. I have a lot of respect for him.
Yeah, and I think he's really good at giving perspective. And, you know, the common question that we've asked on this show is, you know, what tools can you give people to get through really tough times? You know, his take on all of that was unbelievable. You know, how it's all about, you know, obviously moving forward, but you know, things will get better. and just that positive sort of mindset is fantastic. And just the raw emotion as well. I think 2020's dished up more than any other year, just raw emotion. We're seeing that at the finish lines. We're seeing that in interviews. People are showing their vulnerabilities, but I think we're getting to that point now where we need it. We need to connect. We need people to show that, hey, it's, people have gone through some tough stuff. So, to get some tools and strategies on working through that, I think has been really important. We've got a question that's just come in for you from Andy Matthews. It's quite a good one. Something that you have not mentioned about 2020 is that most of the junior and under 23 events were cancelled, including Worlds, making it tough for the next group coming through. Does Bridie have thoughts on this?
I do. Yeah, thanks. It's a good question. And if we think of the local level, that's what's happened here as well. In Victoria, we've allowed professional high-performance sport to continue training and even competition through lockdown, but no grassroots or community sport has been permitted. And that's put a really big pause on all these sort of sub-elite, or what we'd consider to be junior and, stars, future, people who think they're on a pathway or hope they're on a pathway to becoming professional. So no doubt it means that they're not getting that same rubbing elbows and race experience, or the same physical simulation of high intensity work and race craft. I think those things will catch back up again. The challenge is, as Iffy mentioned, is when the whole sector of professional sport is impacted from a financial perspective, the first things to go are the things that cost the most and yield the least. So let's keep professional men's cycling. And I think the UCI was heavily criticised back in April when they didn't even publish a plan for the women. It's like, quickly, let's keep the Grand Tours going. But, oh, yeah, that's right. They're also professional women riders. And you're right, under 23, I'm sure paracycling races have been affected as well. And we know Para Worlds and Paralympics are a really big priority for the UCI, but there just would have been fewer races for all the other categories that aren't elite men and elite women. What I do think, though, is what we forget sometimes is that you also don't have as many people crashing. You don't have as much overtraining. You don't have as much injury. You're also losing some of the downsides, and that's not a bad thing either. When I talked about Gigante and some of the other junior riders, they didn't have to spend 7 months away from home. They didn't have a lot of the hardship that also comes. So let's not only focus on the things we've lost. There'll be some upsides to building strength, to working out maybe what you're good at, to maybe even finding a new path and not, forging down a direction that you may not want to be in. So it does sort a bit of the wheat from the chaff sometimes. And I think that there will be a renewed, invigorated, group of people saying, I've had a year out. I really, really want to get back in there, and I really care about cycling and I want to race. So it helps for a lot of people make decisions, same as those athletes that were focusing on Olympics and think, can I do another year? So I know I sound like I'm being a bit Pollyanna, but I feel like there's a lot of upside, and we don't focus enough on what could have happened and what could have gone wrong for a lot of these athletes that might have been overseas.
Iffy?
Yeah, no, look, you're spot on there, Bridie, and we have to be so careful. I mean, you're right. Everyone was thinking about the top end in Australia and overseas, and it was just to deliver that. But we have not been able to deliver for the youngsters, which are really are the future of the sport. So we've got to be really careful in what we're planning. And I've just been working out with the bakeries of how we fit the juniors back in and the para cycling events to make sure that they're a part of one of the legendary events of cycling, the Lexus Blackburn Bay Crits. Another ad.
Love a plug. It's been a jam-packed show, guys. Now, before we go, as I mentioned earlier, we had Adam Hansen on last week. Now, I went on a bit of a YouTube rabbit hole, and I can't believe I didn't show this GoPro Vision. It's a classic. It was from the Zoncolan, the Giro stage in 2014. And one of the local Italian fans, we know Adam's a bit quirky, but he had a selfie stick, and he got footage of going up the climb, and Adam really embraced it. So I want to run that before we wrap up the show.
Hey, grande!
How good's that? At a time
Sandy
when they
can
were
do that
first.
next year. Once Sandy gets up his fitness to be able to talk and ride, he could do more videos like that.
Yeah, exactly. Anything you want to add before we go, Iffy?
No, look, I've never seen that bit of vision. And you know, I don't know any other pro who would have done that, but that is a real hoot. Yeah. But I'd just like to thank you, Bridie, for coming on for the real early morning. Good to see you got out of your jarvies. You were going to hit some
welcome.
Jarvies, but thanks heaps. A really, really interesting chat.
Yeah,
Thanks for
some
having me
fascinating
on.
stuff in there. Appreciate it, Bridie. And as we said, if you want to get involved with Telstra Connected Cycling, get on their Facebook, and they've got the links in there for the Zwift ride, which is next Wednesday. Maybe you can just wear Lycra. You don't have to ride, but just make it feel like you're a part of it. Until then, we'll see you next Wednesday, 6:50 a.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time. Thanks for joining us, and thanks again, Bridie. We'll speak to you all soon.
Thank you.
Cheers.